This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 96, recorded February 23rd, 2017. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host and editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is our keeper of comics here at TVE, Will.
Hello.
So today, we are going to be talking about Taboo, The Magicians, and we're also going to do a very brief spring preview. We've been kind of trying to cut these down. I think the first time we did one of the season previews, the first time we did it, it was like just took forever, and we went through every single show, and then we just have on each one since we've been like paring it down to like the smallest amount possible. So I think we're going to talk about something like 8 shows this week that are coming up in the spring. But we're going to start things off by talking about the 2 shows that we have been covering for the last couple weeks now. So let's get into Taboo, episode 6. So this is next week will be the penultimate episode of the season, so only 2 episodes left.
Of Taboo?
Yeah, it's only 2 episodes left in this season. Yeah, so this episode involved Delaney and the East India Company basically coming to war.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it literally ends with the East India Company declaring war on Delaney and blowing up his ship. Oh, I mean, it doesn't, like, that's not the end, it's towards the end of the episode. But yeah, so it literally comes to war.
Yeah. They blow up his ship. Delaney, like, basically the guy that he cut the thumb off of before because he said that he would, like, he was thinking of betraying him or something. Like, basically was supposed to be watching the ship at that point, didn't. They blew it up, so Delaney basically, like, gutted and mutilated his corpse in retaliation. And, yeah, just all sorts of shit going down, with everything happening here. We saw them mixing up the the gunpowder, and just as they're like getting their run on that, they make their delivery to the Americans by disguising it as dead bodies with cholera, they say, so that there's not too close inspection.
Yeah, cholera. Oh my god. Remember when Delaney's sister kills her husband with that long like needle, I guess? I don't really know what to call it, but it was like super long. That looked painful as hell. I was like, oh. Yeah. I was like,
it was one of those like hat needles.
Yes.
She used it later on too, like they put it through the hat to pin it to like your hair. So she used it later on in her hair afterwards. But yeah, so she killed her husband. It's like a weird moment because she was basically saying that James like pulled her to in her dreams or something. And he's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, he's not saying that outright, but you can tell like he's like, wait, when did I say this? So there's something going on there, like she's like getting visions from somebody else or hearing voices from somebody else, or is attributing her own like desires to kill her husband to James. They finally hook up and put all, the tiny speck of doubt left remaining to rest about their incestual relationship, and just go full on out for it.
Incest. Put your family to the test. Like, so they basically copulated Lannister style. Yeah, and, it was pretty wow. I mean, before it was implied, and then it was like, this is actually happening on a cable TV show.
Yeah. So, let me see. Besides that, we had James learned or heard from his manservant that his mother had tried to drown him when he was a baby, and this tied into like these kind of visions he's been having of this like woman in paint in the lake or something that he's been having throughout the season, and they were cutting back to that again as they were telling that story about him being drowned in the lake, or like her trying to drown him. That's basically was being told that in response response to him basically hating on his father for having her committed. And his manservant's like, well, no, you have to understand. There's a reason he had her committed.
Right.
She tried to drown you, you know?
Once he learns that kind of like consumes him. There's multiple times in the episode where he's having visions of his mother drowning him. Especially when he's having sex with his sister.
Yeah.
Then it's like he's in the middle of that. Then he starts having those visions, and he's consumed.
He goes from drowning in incestual lust to drowning in a nightmare.
In a nightmare.
But yeah, so he's kind of just, that's what's going on with James. He's kind of freaking out. It's causing him all sorts of issues, as if he didn't have enough already. As we mentioned, his brother-in-law is dead. His sister killed him. We have, the Americans got their initial shipment of gunpowder, and they had to kind of jet off with what they had remaining because the East India Company was going to raid them. Because the guy that was charged with taking care of what we believe is his son with his sister, and that's where they were making the gunpowder, ratted him out to the church, who then ratted that out to the East India Company.
Right.
So the priest ended up finding the body of the man in his confessional with his tongue cut out. Snitches get stitches.
Yep, snitches get stitches. Yeah, pretty much Delaney killed him and cut his tongue out.
And left him in a confessional.
Him in a confessional. Yeah, Delaney's not one for subtle messages.
So there was a moment where Delaney had like a nightmare or something. He fell asleep. He woke up, and I'm not sure, was that Winter's body that he was standing over?
I think so.
The girl, yeah, I couldn't place it. I even like rewound it, and it was like, it just wasn't a clear shot. It was because of the shadows and stuff. And I was like, I thought it was her because the scene beforehand had been with him telling her to leave him, that like he's not to be around. It's not safe to be around him at that time. And she's just been kind of like hanging off of him, like wanting to hang around him. And so apparently she did, and he killed her, or somebody else killed her, and we don't know what's going on. But that's something that's weighing on him now too, is that he apparently killed Winter, the prostitute's, the madam's daughter,
right,
who we had met before. So this is like, it's all kind of building up towards, I'm sure there's going to be consequences of that happening in the next episode that set up what's going to go into the finale. Based on my experience with Stephen Knight shows with Peaky Blinders, I feel like things are going to start kind of shaping up in the last 2 episodes. Lots of consequences.
Lots of consequences. Shit is starting to get real with this show.
I do like, as I've mentioned before, I really like all the kind of witchy elements in the show. So I really liked it when his sister killed her husband and then was claiming it was Delaney that told her to in her dream or something. And he seemed kind of confused by that. I like that kind of implies there's some other kind of shit going on in the kind of other kind of magical force playing against him or something.
Right.
But he got rid of that body as well. They're using cholera as the great excuse.
Yeah, I love it. They just put a cholera note on it and hand wave it away. Jeez, murder is like so easy in that time period, apparently.
You like the American spy and his assistant wearing the weird beak things to protect themselves from working in the morgue?
Yes, I love that.
All these kind of just weird historical medical touches are just kind of fascinating. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else to talk about with Taboo this episode?
Not that I could think of. Unless you could think of anything
I think that
else.
pretty much sums it up. I mean, I'm still liking everything I liked about it before. I still think it's a fascinating character. I still love just kind of the intimidation he provides. I like that the one guy that's like the underworld guy that's been working with him with the compass on his head, like tattooed on his head. Even he was kind of like having a moment where he was like, just couldn't deal with the, like Delaney mutilating the corpse, you know? Like he was like, oh God, he's like making the sign of the cross on him, you know, just couldn't deal with seeing it. It's just, that's this character we have with Delaney is this, he's just hardcore, you know? And people can't deal with that. They can't deal with like how, you know, just completely brutal he can be and just without any care in the world about it. It just puts people off and it's amazing to watch. So that's Taboo, episode 6. We'll talk about that again next week and the week after. And then that'll be it for that show. So let's talk about our other show we've been watching every week here, The Magicians. So this is season 3, episode 5, titled Cheat Day.
Yep, Cheat Day.
Although I would subtitle the episode "The Foo Fighters."
Oh, I know. I lost it when I heard that. It's like the this show continues to amaze me with like, oh man, these references. Yeah, we see further proof that Hillary is obsessed with 90s American culture, apparently, because it's like all 90s references.
Like the last hiking they had or something.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah.
The last hiking they had must have brought just all sorts of 90s shit with them, and but that's kind of like how what the episode kicks off with is Elliot ruling. He finds out, you know, his wife is pregnant. He kind of isn't quite sure how to deal with that. He has his guy trying to make his champagne for him or whatever, and keeps spitting it out, going, "This is garbage. This is crap. We can't have this anymore. We need better," you know. So nothing's working out with that. So he's just kind of depressed about that, and he gets an assassination attempt on him, and thanks largely to Margot, they're able to kind of subdue the assassin and put him in a cell, and they're all like trying to determine what to do with him, like how to, and it's not even a matter of like, do you execute him or not? It's like, how do you execute him? It's hilarious with the sloth like communicating through his like he has a person like assigned to him that like listens to him and conveys it, and he's just like the most brutal, psychotic one of them all.
I love how psychotic the moth is. What about I think you skipped over the talking rabbit who told Elliot that he was going to be a father.
It just says pregnant over and over again.
Yeah, it just says pregnant. I couldn't even understand it for the way it was like talking. It was like, I was like, wait, what? What's it saying? And he's like acting like pregnant. I was like, oh my God, this is great. I love this show.
So speaking of pregnant, we find out that there's another consequence to what happened to Julia at the end of the last season, with her being raped by Renard, the fox god. She's pregnant, and her and Katie are trying to deal with this. She hates it. She wants to get an abortion. She wants to get like a magical abortion, but Katie kind of dissuades her from that, saying like, yeah, they could disappear the baby, but they'd also disappear your liver and your kidneys with it. So it's not the greatest method. They decide they just go to a clinic to try to get the abortion, but there seems to be some kind of power going on with the baby inside her, like a force that's dissuading people from aborting the child. So at first the nurse at the place is like deletes her appointment and says she didn't see it, and you're like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? Is she like some kind of an agent of this Renard or something, or she's like, I don't know, like just some crazy like pro-life nut job or something that happened to get a job there? But then when they do get through and they go up to visit the doctor like can't like connect the suction tube. It just gets, and then after like trying it multiple times, she just like stabs herself in the eye and kills herself.
So we know, like, you can't just abortion away a magical evil baby. I assume you need some magic abortion instead of a normal abortion.
Yeah.
She should probably.
Which is what Julia originally wanted, but it tends to not be the greatest solution. But I mean, it's what they're going to have to try. I imagine it's going to meet with similar results.
Yeah.
That, like, they try to magic abortion it, the same thing's going to happen, It's just a matter of who's magically aborting it or something,
Right.
Maybe
exactly.
like Ember and Umber can, abort it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I had to find something.
We had in this episode, Penny can't use magic anymore. He can still teleport, he can still travel, but he can't use his own magic anymore because he regrew his hands, and they're like not his own, basically. So he can't use them. The Dean of Breakville sends him to Breakville South, to the Russian guy from season 1 that runs that part of Breakville's, and he might be able to help. So Penny agrees to this. The guy says, okay, but I have a project I'm working on you have to help me out with. The project is just crazy ridiculous. Like a huge rope just tied with like tons of knots, or like a table that he wants shaved down to sawdust. It's really kind of funny that the task that he wants Penny to solve in order to secure his help. But we find out the reason why is because it's like a way of storing up magic. He's taken like magical artifacts, like these knots that are imbued with magic, or this table that was sealed with magic, and like grinding it down and storing the magic because he's afraid that magic in Fillory is going to go out because of what happened in the wellspring, both with the beasts nearly emptying it, but also with Umber violating it with his feces. So this the Russian guy at Breakville South is trying to store up magic, and he's willing to try to help Penny as much as he can. At first, it almost seems like the tasks that this guy is having Penny do are like, as Penny refers to it, like a wax on, wax off scenario, like a Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid way of like regaining his magic. But that's not it at all. He's just his way of stockpiling magic in case magic goes out in the world.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he's trying to stockpile, like, sort of like save up magic so that, if he ever loses magic, he has a backup.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that.
And Penny gets sent off. He's going to get some moss from Fillory. We don't really know what the purpose of that is, if that's supposed to help Penny or work towards this or be something completely else. But he's going to travel back to Fillory for that, which will likely put him back in the path of Elliot and Margot, who we left without finishing what happened in their story, which is that the assassin revealed himself as a freedom fighter for Fillory, or as they call themselves, the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, the Foo Fighters.
Which Margot can't keep a straight face about. And after all the talk about how to execute him, Elliot, puts it off. They go through they make like a flow chart. It was kind of funny. They're like all the cases in history where execution was necessary and the cases in which it wasn't. And it's like this massive list where they have to execute him. And on the other side, it just says the Cuban Missile Crisis with a question mark. It's like they're reaching for anything. They come to the determination they have to kill him. But then late in the middle of the night, Elliot visits the prisoner and says, I'm going to give you one chance to save your own life. Tell me, what would you do if you had somebody of Fillory ruling over the kingdom? What would you do to improve Fillory? And then the next time we see them, Elliot basically says that he's not going to execute the prisoner. Everyone's kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? They're like so shocked about it, especially Margot, who's really upset because she fears for Elliot. She thinks something's going to happen to him. There are quite a few references to Ned Stark in this episode.
Yeah. Not surprised.
And I think that's why Margot's being so harsh about it, is she thinks that Elliot's going to be Ned Stark.
Yeah. Yeah, she's worried about Elliot.
But he decides that that's what he has to do. Then at the end of the storyline related to them, we find out that his queen used to have a relationship with his would-be assassin, and she was one of the Foo Fighters. So he tries to blackmail the queen into helping out the Foo Fighters from her position. She doesn't want to, but he's holding their past relationship over her head, which of course, like, we know Elliot wouldn't give a shit. He'd be like, okay, whatever. But the guy convinces her that Elliot has a reputation as being easily wounded and offended.
Yep. Was Elliot just like, oh my god, the part where like Elliot's at his desk on the computer, and like his coworker comes in and is like, hey.
Oh, not Elliot, Queintin,
yeah. Why did
Queintin.
I call Queintin Elliot? God damn. but no, Elliot's at his desk, and not Elliot, Jesus, Queintin's at his desk, and his coworker comes in and is like, hey, you ever masturbate in your office? And he's like, no.
Then immediately after that scenario, a woman comes into his office and is like, he's like, geez, you could knock. And she's like, what, were you masturbating? He's like, God, no. And she's like, I do. It's like everybody around him.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you do. And then the woman, she comes in and she asks the same thing. She's like, it's like, what were you doing? Masturbating in here? He's like, no. And it's like, what is it with this place or something? Like, this place is so weird.
But what's interesting there is that the woman that Quentin's working with now, which is like, he's got this like total desk job unrelated to magic. That's what he's doing in order to get by and not use magic because of how he feels about everything that's happened. The woman that he's working with that had come in and said that is from season 1. She's the one that Alice's brother tried to repair her face because she had messed up her own face, and in doing so, Alice's brother like basically turned into pure magic, and that was like a big plot point in the first episode or in the first season. That was the whole reason Alice was at Breakville, was to like try to find her brother,
right,
and find out what happened to him and whatever. And so we had that situation now where Alice died basically the same way.
Yeah.
So you have that now. Queintin is now in this office with this woman that survived Alice's brother in the same way that Queintin survived Alice.
Yeah, so it's
you have
kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're doing that. Queintin ends up revealing to her that Alice is dead. She goes on what she says is her cheat day, which more than a cheat day seems to be that like they're really playing up this idea of like magic being like a drug. And she got herself away from magic in just seeing Queintin use magic a few times, where Queintin wasn't even really necessarily meaning to. It's like came to him naturally before he could even stop himself from doing it. But because of seeing those times of seeing him use magic, it's made her like want to use magic like more and more. So she has this big epic cheat day where she's just using magic left and right, and she's using cheat day as an excuse, but then later on she's talking about doing it more, and Quentin's like, hey, I thought it was a cheat day. If we're doing this every day, then it's not a cheat day anymore. And to me, that really reminds me of the idea of addiction. It's like, I've had like unsuccessful diets before where like you go from like, oh yeah, I'm just going to cheat this once or something. And then, once you break that taboo, you start doing it again and again. And then you're fucked, you're completely off the wagon. And the same thing happens with like, drugs and alcohol. You go like, oh, I'm just going to have this one drink, and then that one turns into 2, turns into 3, and then, why not have one the next day? And then you're off the wagon. So that seems to be like where this woman is headed. Like she's about to go off the wagon because of her encounter with Queintin. But through that encounter, we had an interesting discovery, which is that the Russian guy from Breakville South, who we were visiting again with Penny, the reason he's in Breakville South is because he slept with a number of the female students, but one in particular which caused a problem. And we find out now what seems to be is that the girl that Queintin is with, she uses a spell to, like, for illusion to, like, have each of them at one point after another take on, like, the form of another person that person desires. And the person she desires is the Russian guy from Breakville South. And so we figure out basically...
Which is like a weird-ass desire. I mean, come on. It's like, Jesus.
It implies, like, okay, so she was the one that had the relationship with him. That was the wrong one. And the reason it was the wrong one is likely because it ended up leading to the death of Alice's brother.
Yeah.
That, like, after Alice's brother died, you know, the school investigated, went through all this shit, and it ended up leading back to him. And that's why he was sent to Breakville South. So we got this kind of cool bit of the backstory that, like, little pieces of different backstories that were put together through that. Of course, Queintin, the one he desires, she turns into Alice, and it seems almost less of like a sexual thing for him and more just like a moment to just kind of like cry, embrace her, and kind of like say he's sorry about everything that happened. It was a pretty emotional scene, just him kind of dealing with that, you know, seeing what he believes to be Alice, or like knowing it's not Alice, but the illusion of Alice.
Right, yeah, exactly. So it's not really satisfying in the end because it's an illusion.
And Queintin decides at that point that he is going to leave, and he doesn't want to continue this relationship with this woman because it's not really satisfying. He feels worse afterwards, and he's just not ready for anything like that. She takes that harshly. Again, that implies that what's really happening with her is that she's going off the wagon, and she had somebody to go off the wagon with, and now she feels alone again. So I imagine we're going to see some very dark events leading for that character, because that's kind of what happens in a show when a character goes off the wagon, in a show where characters die.
Yeah.
frequently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's usually what happens. We shall see if it happens here.
But that's pretty much it for The Magicians, I think. We got quite a few more episodes. This was only episode 5.
There's like at least 5 more, right? There's like about 10 episodes.
There are 10 screeners up right now. So
I think that's it.
For those of you who don't know, Will and I have access to screeners.
We have access to screeners. There's 10 up right now. I think that's it. There were 10 episodes last year, so I think it's going to be
Was there? Okay, yeah. So probably. Sci-fi is usually like 13, but 10 episodes.
Yeah,
like the last season was 10.
Yeah, I think that was 10. So was The Expanse was 10 episodes. So I think that's what we're gonna get. Yeah,
10 episodes seems likely. So that would put us at halfway through. So really enjoying it. I like the way that they've already resolved the issue with the Beast, and now we have Renard still in the background, but we have all these kind of developing threats, like things that are starting to feel like they might be bigger problems than what we initially thought, or like that we didn't really acknowledge as problems, but now seem like maybe they are. Like everything that's going on with Umber is just, every time I think back on it, is looking more and more, how do I say it? Malevolent, like he defiled the wellspring, and that's leading to so many problems, and the way he kind of like was not caring about that, and then all the kind of stuff that's going on with Fillory right now, and then kind of referencing him with like the problems that are occurring because of that. It's seeming less and less like Umber's choice to do these things was like just kind of random sloppy behavior, and more like something malevolent in the background.
Yeah, I think it's
that we haven't really discovered yet. So
I think we're going to discover more about the true nature of Umber, especially now that the Beast is out of the picture. I think with the Beast in the picture kind of dominating Fillory, I don't think Umber has really had a chance to be Umber in a long time. I think we're going to see that change.
Yeah, definitely. I think something's coming. But we'll have to see. We're going to talk about Magicians for at least another 5 weeks.
Yep.
But now let's talk about the spring preview. So we are going to be talking about 8 shows from the spring preview that we put up on the site just recently. So if you go to TVEnthusiast.com, you can find it. The spring preview is going to be updated frequently. An example of that is that if you look at, I wrote a top 10 list of most anticipated shows from the spring preview, and you'll notice that on that list there is no American Gods. American Gods is, of everything on that spring preview, is the thing I am most anticipating. The reason it wasn't on that top 10 list is that I wrote that top 10 list on Tuesday, and the American Gods reveal came out on Wednesday, the release day. So it's something that's going to be updated as, release dates are revealed for shows. And that's happening a lot right now. There's a lot of shows that are kind of coming around the April timeframe that are just being revealed. And there's almost nothing on our schedule when it comes to May. So, of course, there's going to be a bunch more as we get closer to May. But let's kick it off on the spring preview. First up, we're going to talk about coming March 5th is Making History. This is a new comedy series on Fox. It's a time travel series about two guys. They get in a duffel bag with what seems to be like the instrument gauge from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I love it's a duffel bag with just like the exact like gauge from Back to the Future. Like I was looking at it still, I'm like, yeah, they just copied it exactly.
Yeah, and they use that to go back in time to the Revolutionary War period. The guy that's been doing that for a while now is basically just doing it to hook up with the girl by using like song lyrics from the future to like woo her, and kind of his knowledge of the future to kind of become like a visionary like guy at that time frame to impress people, and basically just drinking with famous figures and seducing women. And so that's what he's been using the time travel for. He gets concerned though, and he brings back his friend because I think he realizes that Paul Revere didn't make his ride or something like that. And so he goes back, he grabs his friend who's like a history professor, a history teacher, and brings him back. I think the funniest thing about the conceit about this time travel is how everyone is like in the past is obsessed with ham. And like ravenous about it too.
Yeah, like ham is like diamond covered meth or something in the past. I think that's what he said in that trailer. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But whenever they end up in a tight spot, he just pulls out a ham bone and they just go nuts. It's really funny. Really looking forward to this. This show is from, I believe it's another one from, Lord and Miller, I think, who did, they did the Lego movie, and they do Last Man on Earth and Son of Zorn and a bunch of other stuff on Fox. I think it's Lord and Miller, I think, is the team. But they're the ones doing this. They seem to be kind of like two of the new comedy showrunner, like, gurus at Fox. Kind of in the same way that, like, Berlanti is the comic book guru at the CW, or, Shonda Rhimes is like the guru of everything at ABC.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, Shonda Rhimes.
But I'm really looking forward to Making History. It looks really funny. Next up, we're going to talk about Iron Fist, which comes out on March 17th. I have to say, I don't know if you agree with me on this or not, but from the very beginning, when the Defender series was announced, Iron Fist was the one I was most looking forward to. And it still is. I'm super psyched for Iron Fist.
Okay. All right. Super psyched. I feel like there's a butt coming here. There's like...
No.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. It sounded like you were setting it up for that. You were like, I'm still super hyped for Iron Fist. It's the one I've been the most hyped for. And I'm just... But... the actor they got for Iron Fist is trash. No,
I'm super psyched for Iron Fist.
Yeah, me too. I'm
stylistically,
excited.
This is the one I was most excited about, and it's living up to that. I love that it kind of has like a little bit of a lighter edge. Like Danny Rand is kind of like more of a, I don't know, like a lighthearted character compared to the others. Like everybody in the Netflix Marvel universe is like miserable except Danny Rand. So I'm really happy to have a character like him in this universe now. And I also really like Magic in the Marvel universe, and he's like the next element of Magic, because we had Magic it come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with, Loki had it before, but like really come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Doctor Strange. And then we had it come into like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ghost Rider. And now it's coming into the Netflix side with Iron Fist. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is it the one you were most looking forward to out of the whole bunch as well, or?
Yeah, I think so, because it had that mystical element to it that you don't see it in the other shows are more grounded, even though obviously Jessica Jones has superpowers and there was a guy who can mind control people and Luke Cage.
Other than that.
but they're way more grounded, than even the stuff in the movies. And this was going to have a huge mystical element. So it's by its very nature, Iron Fist is going to have to be more fantastic. And I was interested to see how that was going to play. There was rumors that they were going to can it outright because they couldn't make it work. I don't know.
Yeah. That was also around the time that it started becoming more clear that Punisher was going to have a series, and people thought that they were going to replace it with the Punisher series and then bring Punisher into the Defenders instead. I'm so glad they didn't, because Iron Fist is by far the one I was most excited about. So when those rumors started coming out, I was like, no, why Iron Fist? That's the one I really wanted. But it's almost here. To me, this is like the Captain America moment, where like Captain America was the last pre-Avengers Marvel movie,
Right, exactly.
It was the last one where you're like, okay.
The last pre-Avenger or pre-Defenders Marvel TV show, I guess.
Yeah, so this is the one that kind of sets the last like piece of the puzzle for what the Defenders is going to be like into place. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm super, super, super psyched. That's obviously really ranked high on my top 10 list.
The original Defenders in the comic books was like Doctor Strange, the Hulk.
Yeah. Wasn't Tony Stark in it at one point, or?
Let's see. I don't know if Iron Man was ever actually a part of it, but I think the original team was Hulk, Namor, the Submariner, and Doctor Strange. And obviously,
I remember Doctor Strange was in it.
Yeah, that was from the first issue I'm looking at. That was the lineup. Obviously, nobody knows who the hell owns the rights to the Submariner. Universal.
Oh no, Marvel has those again.
Oh, good. Marvel has those.
Marvel just recently got that back. There's been rumors about them doing something related to Submariner
nice.
in Hawaii that seems to be overlapping because they're shooting some stuff in Hawaii for that what's the series called, the Inhumans series.
Oh, the Inhumans.
Yeah, which is looking more and more like a big thing now.
Theory is they're going to make Submariner an Inhuman, because I guess in the comic books he's actually a mutant, or he's considered a mutant, and so I guess since they don't have mutants in the MCU, I guess they'd have to change him to an Inhuman. or just like enhanced, like they've or
done
just
with,
like enhanced, yeah, with the Marvel movies. But yeah, obviously that Netflix was going to make a Defenders TV show with Hulk and Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see how this is a different team of Defenders. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, while we're on that, I just wanted to say, because that was just recently in the news, like I just said, Inhumans is looking more and more like it's actually going to be like a really big deal.
It is.
It's a limited run from the beginning, and the first person cast in that show.
8 episodes is pretty short run. It's ambitious that they're doing something with that limited.
And they
run
made
of
their
episodes.
first casting, which was a big deal too.
Oh yeah, inspired casting. Really, I saw that.
Yeah, Ewan Rowan from Game of Thrones.
They basically said, "Oh hey, we have a character in Inhumans that is very similar to that guy from Game of Thrones. Get him."
And they did.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're filming in an ambitious way. I think they're filming in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Hawaii, which is just like, okay, wow, seriously, this is not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like continuation. This is like a much higher priority for them, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. films everything like in Canada, like all the other shows that are cheaper do, and to be filming in like 3 different locations locations that are all like really expensive locations to film. You know, making it a limited event series and then casting somebody from Game of Thrones is like, okay, yeah, they're going big time on this.
They're going big
Plus
time.
the showrunner for it's the guy that's going to be doing Iron Fist, right? So.
Oh, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, it's the same showrunner that's doing Iron Fist.
Oh, that's interesting. So when are they going to integrate these shows with the films? That's my big question. Will. Yeah, it's not going to.
It'll always be a one-sided relationship.
Yeah, they need to.
What upsets me is that the excuse they use for why they can't do it in the movies is because the TV schedule moves so much faster that they can't do it, and it's like, oh yeah, obviously that makes it hard for you to say like, let's bring Daredevil into an Avengers movie. Of course, yeah, that's not going to necessarily work that well. That doesn't mean you can't even like reference it, you know? You can't even say, hey, I know this blind attorney in New York or something. Like, that's all you have to do is like make a little reference, and that just acknowledges like, yes, this does exist in this universe, but they won't do it. You know, that's the thing that's kind of frustrating. It's very one-sided.
Right, yeah.
But let's move on from that. Back to spring preview. The next show we have up, we're going to talk about, most of the shows we're talking about here are in April, and this starts the April block. On April 10th is the new season of Better Call Saul. Now, I know did you finish the first season, or I think you didn't finish the first season?
I didn't finish the first. No, I haven't watched any more of Better Call Saul yet. I'm a terrible human being. I know.
But you haven't finished Breaking Bad yet either, right?
No, I haven't finished that yet either. So I'm even worse.
Yeah, you should definitely finish Breaking Bad before you get back on Better Call Saul.
Okay, cool.
But so much TV, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not.
Better Call Saul, Better Call Saul's amazing. This season they're bringing Gus Fring back from Better Call Saul, or from Breaking Bad, I mean. So that's going to be awesome. I'm so excited about that. And yeah, it's just Vince Gilligan continues to be an amazing showrunner. His use of Chekhov's gun in his storytelling style and the way he implements that, which is basically, you know, he puts something in the frame and you're like, okay, this is going to have some significance. And then that builds tension until it does happen. He's like a master of that. And I can't wait to see more of that in the next season. Next up on April 14th, we have a series that I know you're really excited for. It's the return of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh yeah. I mean, god damn, I loved that show back in high school. That was like back in high school, middle school, that was my jam. To see that come back, that's a dream come true, literally.
What do you think of the new cast and some of the people involved now? Because in this version, you have Felicia Day, you have Patton Oswalt, and you also have Dan Harmon from Community working as a writer on it. So you kind of have some new blood in there. I think there's still some involvement from some of the original people as well, but I don't think they're involved like hosting. Like they're not the stars of it this time.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. If they play side characters, I think it'll be okay. I don't know if I necessarily want them riffing. Like, not that they're not funny people or anything, but it's like, I'm so used to the dynamic of Joel and the bots, you know? It's like, that's Mystery Science Theater 3000. If it's Joel and the bots and Patton Oswalt, that's just gonna be weird. It's gonna be like, yeah, I don't like this.
Well, they're not like playing themselves. Like, I know like Patton Oswalt is playing like some character. It looks like he's wearing like a lab vest and has like white hair.
If they're there for the skits, that's perfectly fine, I think. But just, I mean, I don't know. It seems mean to say this, but it's like, just don't want you in the room riffing, you know? It's kind of like, we got our holy trinity there, and that's Mystery Science Theater 3000.
You're used to the cadence and the style of what was there already. Yeah, I get that. It'll it'll be interesting to see how people react to it and what it ends up being. It looks like they are kind of playing characters. It's not like it's just Patton Oswalt as Patton Oswalt, you know? And, it's cool that you have, Patton Oswalt and Felicia Day are like good picks because they're both comedians with a lot of geek cred, you know?
Right.
And so they kind of fit with that. And then Dan Harmon working as a writer on it with, you know, his work on like Community and Rick and Morty and stuff. He's a great pick as well. So, it'll be exciting to see kind of, I'm really interested. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000 when it was first on TV. I probably would be more if I had watched it, you know, at an older age than when it was first on. But I never caught that train, you know? So I'm more interested in seeing how people react to it, like this new version. Because I think it's interesting when you bring back something that's really old and beloved like that.
It really is. It's interesting to kind of see what happens with that.
So next up, on April 19th, we have season 3 of Fargo. So I don't think, did you ever end up finishing season 2 of Fargo?
No, that's another thing I have to get back to and finish. So definitely.
You just need like a hyperbolic time chamber where you can just lock yourself in and time doesn't pass in the outside world and you can spend hours catching up on all of your TV. Fargo, season 2 was great. Season 3 looks really kind of interesting. They have, Ewan McGregor is going to be playing twins. He's going to be playing 2 characters, which is kind of cool. Yeah. This is like the most modern of the Fargo series. Like I think the first one took place in like 2006 or something. And this one's going to be taking place like around 2010, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in that kind of range or something. It's still not like the complete modern age. Like it's not like supposed to be this year or anything, but it's the closest of all of them with, you know, season 2 was like in like the 70s. So, or 80s. And yeah, so looking forward to that. Fargo is always good. Noah Hawley, who is the showrunner on Fargo, right now is killing it with Legion. So yeah, it's going to be nice to go right from Legion into Fargo.
That is going to be one incredible night of television. Holy cow. Like,
just one. I don't know if they're gonna end up at the same time. I think Legion might be over by the time Fargo starts up.
I guess,
but it'll still be cool because it'll be like you're kind of going right from one to the other, you know?
Yeah, I like that too. So it's not so much like the best night of television ever, but it's going to be like pretty damn sweet to have both of those shows back.
It's basically like what the CW should have done with all their comic book shows. Instead of like putting them on all at the same time, they should have like said, okay, we're doing Supergirl and The Flash, and then when those go on hiatus, we're doing Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow or something. You know?
Pretty much. It's pretty stupid how they have all these shows running concurrently like this. It's like, yeah, I can't actually watch all these shows. Yeah, that turns out I can't watch 80 shows about DC Comics alongside 80 shows about Marvel Comics, and then find room to watch other things.
And as the quality on the DC Comics shows declines, you know, it's like, makes it even a harder proposition to stick with that. It's like, am I really missing Fargo so I can watch Arrow?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's like, Arrow or Legion? I don't know.
The same thing, right? You know, just no difference.
Yeah, I'll just watch Arrow and continue to be mad at it instead of watching something I might enjoy.
That's the struggle, man. The struggle of TV today.
Yeah.
Next up, we have on April 26th, which is actually my sister's birthday, The Handmaid's Tale, which is a new Hulu original. It's based on a book of the same name. It's kind of a dystopian science fiction kind of thing. Can't really tell exactly what's going on based on the previews, but it seems like there are lower class citizens that are basically used for parts. Like they're kept around and it seems like they're used for parts. That's that's what I got from the trailer.
Oh, okay. Do you know the story of The Handmaid's Tale?
No.
You're not familiar with the novel? It's not exactly that.
There is a big class issue, I know.
It's about a totalitarian theocracy which has overthrown the United States government. It's actually kind of prescient because it feels like that's happening right now. Yeah.
Any kind of dystopian story just feels like it hits close to home now.
Yeah, it does. It's set in a future New England. What's the plot summary? Here you go. It's set in the Republic of Gilead, a theocratic military dictatorship formed within the borders of what was formerly the United States.
There does seem to be a major class issue going on as far as like different social classes.
I guess the main character is named Offred. She is one of a class of women kept for reproductive purposes, known as handmaids, by the ruling class, an area of declining birth rates due to sterility from pollution and sexually transmitted diseases. Offred describes her life during her third assignment as a handmaid. Interspersed in flashbacks are portions of her life from before and during the beginning of the revolution, when she finds she has lost all of her autonomy to her husband through her failed attempt to escape with her husband and daughter to Canada. So it's basically about this woman. She's being subjugated by an oppressive government, forced into this role, and it's about her basically rebelling, gaining her agency, and all that good stuff. So basically what you saw is people using them for parts. She's actually being used to give birth because there's not a lot of fertile women around, apparently.
So the main character is being played by Elizabeth Moss, who kind of made a name for herself in Mad Men, where she played Peggy.
I thought I recognized the actress. I was like, okay.
Yeah, she was Peggy in Mad Men. She was the woman that was able to become a copywriter, even though that was like a man's profession.
Right.
Joseph Fiennes is also in this. He's Ray Fiennes' brother. He was in Flash Forward, remember?
Flash Forward, like one of the best TV shows I ever seen. Was better than Lost.
It's also got Yvonne Stravosky. I can't pronounce her last name. From Chuck and Dexter. She was in both of those.
Nice.
So yeah, good cast.
Pleasing.
Interesting idea. Hulu series, so probably underappreciated. Underwatched, I'm sure. Speaking of underappreciated and underwatched, comes the show I am most looking forward to in this spring preview, which is American Gods on Starz. I say underwatched and underappreciated, even though the show hasn't debuted, because this is the show from Brian Fuller, who his works are always underappreciated and underwatched. Right down to his last series, Hannibal, which was routinely named by us in like our, end of the year, like awards and stuff as like the best show on TV, the best performers on TV, in like almost every category it dominated when it was on the air. So we're huge fans of Brian Fuller and what he does on TV. In my top 10 list a couple of years ago, I think I named him as the top showrunner of all, over like Joss Whedon and so many other people, because he's never done wrong. Like, any show he's run has been amazing.
I think as time went on, I've actually kind of soured on Joss Whedon. Like he's had some misses. It's become clear that he really has a formula, and there are a lot of Joss Whedon specific tropes in his shows.
Yeah,
which are just like
kill the clown and
kill, which really now just rubbed me the wrong way. It's like in Avengers, it's like spoilers for Avengers Age of Ultron, by the way. It's like in Avengers, like in both Avengers movies he had to kill somebody off, and it's like, yeah, you're just being Joss Whedon now. Come on. It's like, it's just more annoying than it is entertaining. It's like, I don't know. He just, maybe if he like backed off of his tropes, and like maybe I could start liking him again, but
The thing is, if you go back and watch the best of Joss Whedon, it's still great. Like,
right.
Buffy is still great, Angel is still great, Firefly is still great, but his career isn't perfect. I mean, Dollhouse was not a great show.
Right.
Dollhouse had a few great moments, but as a show was not great, you know? His works like, you know, Avengers was great, but, you know, it would have been great almost no matter who was doing it. You really give credit there to Kevin Feige for the whole kind of Marvel universe. And Avengers 2 wasn't necessarily that great. Whether that falls on Whedon or not is debatable, but when it comes to Brian Fuller, he hasn't run a show that hasn't been amazing.
Right.
Every show he's run has been amazing. And they've gotten progressively better too. It's not like Whedon where like...
Yeah, they're not... Well, and it's also not like Whedon. I guess Brian Fuller probably has his own tropes, but I think he's smart enough to where he could subvert even his own tropes or what you expect from him, which is really cool because that shows like he's just playing on that next level. And I expect this will be no different. I mean, I expect Brian Fuller. I haven't seen Brian Fuller's version of the Munsters that never got past the pilot episode.
I liked it. I liked it, but that came out. It was either basically there was no way that both that and Hannibal were going to be made. So I'm glad we got Hannibal.
I'm glad we got Hannibal out of that too. I mean, as interesting as that was going to be, I much preferred Hannibal got made.
They released the pilot for the Monsters thing, which was called Mockingbird Lane. They released that on Halloween, that year.
I know they released the episode, but I never watched it, so I have no clue what that's like.
I did. I liked it. It had what's his name was in it? Eddie Izzard was in it as the grandpa.
Oh, yep. And then he reused Eddie Izzard for Hannibal when he did Hannibal. So it's like it's
a great pair, you know.
It's kind of cool.
I imagine Eddie Izzard's probably going to pop up in American Gods too.
Oh, probably. I think that was pretty cool of Brian Fuller because it was like, okay, so we're not going forward with Mockingbird Lane, so you're kind of not going to have a job there, but I can make it up to you. I'm totally going to use you in my new show.
They're great. Yeah, I like those two working together. So Fuller and reuses the actors that he likes to work with a lot.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing more kind of Fuller regulars in American Gods. Not too many have shown up so far, but
I think that's
I'm hoping maybe we'll see Lee Pace, who's a Fuller regular. I'm hoping we'll see him. It'll be cool if we could see, Mads Mikkelsen or Hugh Dancy, who are really only from Hannibal so far, but even still you could tell that they're people that worked really well with Fuller. So
Mads Mikkelsen is mad busy though these days. He is in demand. He was just in Doctor Strange. Yeah, oh my. He was just in Rogue One. He's gonna be starring in a Hideo Kojima game.
Yeah, but his roles seem to have been temporary. That's his role in Doctor Strange isn't something we're gonna see again in the MCU. His character is gone,
No, he hasn't had
same thing with Rogue One. It's not a character we're gonna see again,
Right. The same thing with Death Stranding. It's not a character we're gonna see again. But he is in demand. People want to work with him. So I guess that's good news for Mads Mikkelsen.
People caught on.
Yes, people caught on. Yeah.
Hannibal may have been very underwatched and undernoticed by many people, but the people who did watch it and did notice it were important people, and they were able to pick up on what worked in Hannibal and who was amazing in it. I remember when I went to Comic-Con when it had just been announced that Hannibal was being canceled, that the third season was the last, and I got to meet Brian Fuller and Hugh Dancy and Richard Armitage, who played played Dollarhide. So I got to meet all of them at the Comic-Con party, and they were the rock stars, especially Brian Fuller. And that was something I did not expect. Like, I was a huge Brian Fuller fan, but I thought, you know, you go to the NBC party, I'm expecting like, oh yeah, everyone's going to be waiting for like this person or this person from this hit show. No, everybody there was there to see Brian Fuller. Like, that's all anybody was talking about. Like, when's Brian Fuller showing up? When's Brian Fuller going to be there? And it's like, it's hard to believe that all these people are so psyched to see somebody on a show that just got canceled.
Right.
You know, that like most people just didn't really pay that much attention to. And it's like, no, the people who do pay attention to him adore him, and they're significant people. But like the masses just don't seem to necessarily connect with what he puts out. But yeah, I'm super psyched for American Gods. There's been one trailer out for it only that came out at Comic-Con, but it looks great. Can't wait to see more of it. The cast is fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're talking Ian McShane, Peter Stormare, who by the way I just saw. He's in John Wick 2, and I just saw him and I was like, oh, it's Peter Stormare. Crispin Glover. That's just like blows my socks off. The fact that we're gonna have scenes with Ian McShane and Crispin Glover.
Oh my god, the fact that Crispin Glover's in anything in 2017 blows my mind. But yeah.
But Crispin, just think about this. Like, this year you are going to see scenes in which Crispin Glover and Ian McShane interact with each other.
Yeah, that's gonna be amazing.
That's just that's crazy. So, and they're gonna be reading Brian Fuller dialogue. It's just like, oh man,
it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that comes out April 30th, the day before my birthday. So that's like an early birthday gift for me, I think. So I'm psyched about that. We only have one show coming up in May, to end off our spring preview, but what a show it is. On May 21st, Twin Peaks returns after over 25 years being off the air.
Yeah, over 25 years.
A direct continuation, not a remake. This is a large swath of the original cast is back.
I still wonder how they're going to pull this off as a direct continuation of.
You have some of the significant characters. The actors are dead.
Yeah, some significant characters where the actors are dead.
Including Bob, who's like the big villain of the series. He's dead. You know, the actor.
Yeah, the actor who was the big villain. Where we left, we left off at sort of a cliffhanger. There's going to be a big gap in time between where we pick up and where that cliffhanger ended, where that was intended.
Oh, it takes place in the modern day, so it's going to be over a 25-year gap.
So wherever that twist was expected to go, I don't know. Like, did he wait 25 years to do so? I don't know what's going to happen with that. So many questions.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens from that. Like, how we're going to be reintroduced to that character, Cal MacLachlan's character.
Yeah, exactly.
How that's all going to come back is going to be fascinating. I'm also interested in the style of the series, because there have been a number of teasers for the new series, and they're all using footage from the old series.
Oh yeah,
they haven't shown a single frame.
The teaser you posted on the website, that's just all old footage from 25 years ago.
There hasn't been a single new frame shown for this series.
No, there hasn't.
Nothing.
It's going to be interesting to see it, and it's also good.
It's also interesting.
It's also interesting because it's coming on. It's coming after we've had so many imitators, and
Oh yeah, especially in the last few years, there've been quite a number. I mean, Riverdale is one we have talked about in the past couple of weeks on this podcast.
Right,
is totally a Twin Peaks styled series.
Right, exactly. It's totally Twin Peaks styled.
It's funny now we have M. Night Shyamalan's kind of been making a comeback in movies now with
like Shyamalan did a Twin Peaks series.
Yeah, and he did like a Twin Peaks inspired series like a couple years ago as well. So Wayward Pines, that was it.
Pines, that was it. Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of like imitators, and I mean, Twin Peaks has been imitated forever.
It has been imitated
since it first aired. There were imitators. Some of them really good, like American Gothic, and some of them kind of like eh.
Yeah. So you gotta wonder, as Twin Peaks comes back officially in name, is it gonna feel feel like one of its own imitators, or is it? Are we gonna watch it and say this finally feels like the genuine article all over again?
See, it's weird because the tone of Twin Peaks is so unique. Because Twin Peaks is kind of like, it's got a cheesiness to it, but then that cheesiness feeds into the creepiness.
Well, like I've always said, Twin Peaks gets its tone, gets its vibe from its creator David Lynch and his personal. You say an artist puts themselves in their work. You could say David Lynch put himself wholly into Twin Peaks, and when other people try to imitate that tone, it comes out false because those people are not David Lynch. And, they don't, it's just that simple matter of fact. That makes it, because Twin Peaks, like you mentioned Riverdale, and Riverdale's Twin Peaks insofar as there's a murder mystery and it's a show about town, but it doesn't have that weirdness. It doesn't have the bizarre sense of humor that Twin Peaks, those moments of humor they injected there. And just
it's a little bit of it, but it's not quite. I mean, that's one of the things that works in Twin Peaks' favor.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in Riverdale's, it works in Riverdale's favor that they don't overly try to copy it.
They don't and just like the plain weirdness of Twin Peaks too. Like when Kyle MacLachlan's character has the dream and the midget in the red room, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're
or the kid with the cream corn in his hands, and
there's the moments of just plain weirdness, and it's interesting because some of that stuff is totally by accident. The whole thing with the demon was just an accident of one of the stagehands getting into the frame of a shot, and David Lynch seeing that and going, "Oh, evil demon," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I like that. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. It wasn't even planned.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and so much I think of what makes Twin Peaks, besides just being David Lynch, a big part of it also is just, it's a product of its era,
Right.
And some of that, like, that's part of what makes it like hold up all these years later is that like the aspects of its era play into the kind of like weird cheesiness of it. And that just adds to it.
Right.
And like, how are they going to replicate that as like a modern show? Like, I'm so curious, like just how this show looks. I am utterly like at the edge of my seat waiting for a single frame to drop from the show just to see what it looks like, because that's going to mean so much towards what this show's going to be. And that's part of what's so crazy about this. And they haven't shown anything, not a single frame. And there's a lot of other interesting stuff about this series and how it was done. I mean, I believe it's 17 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, but it was all shot like one really long movie. They didn't even know how many episodes it was going to be. They shot it like one huge movie and then divided it up in editing to find out where it would edit down to. And that's how they determined it would be like 17 episodes. It was like, oh, okay, this is how it divides. So that's like fascinating too. So there's so many things I'm fascinated about with this. Obviously, Twin Peaks is the first show club we did on our site before we even had the podcast. We did a show club for Twin Peaks with Kat. It was the two of us and Kat, and Kat had seen the series before, but you and I had not. And we went through and watched every single episode of that series. And then on the 25-year anniversary of Twin Peaks, we watched the movie, the Twin Peaks movie Firewalk with Me, and we did a podcast about that because at that point we had the podcast go. So we're going from that. We got heavily involved in it. This project was announced literally like the day after we announced that we were going to be doing a Twin Peaks show club. Like the day after they announced Twin Peaks is coming back. It was like, what? Like, how did that line up? So of course this is something that we're going to be interested in on the site. That's going to be an exciting one. Oh man, lots of good TV in spring, man.
Yep, pretty much.
Iron Fist, Better Call Saul, Fargo, American Gods, and then we have a long time returning Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Twin Peaks. Just crazy.
Yep, just crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Insane.
So, that's mostly it for our podcast. Real quick, I'm going to go over what's coming up in the next week. So by the time this podcast will be up, up. It'll be Friday, February 24th, 2017. The Patriot will have aired on Amazon. I believe the whole series is going up, so that should all be there if anybody wants to watch that. On Monday, February 27th, 2017, the Taken TV series comes to NBC. That's one of the big trends this year in TV is movie remakes as TV series. When We Rise comes to ABC. This is like a LGBT, I think it's LGBTQ now, series. It's about like rising up for rights about that, but it's a scripted show. And then, Code of a Killer comes to Acorn. Acorn is like a British, it's like a series or a streaming service for British series. The High Court comes to Comedy Central. This is basically like Judge Judy, but like the Judge Judy is Doug Benson.
Right.
And he gets high and rules over people's court type stuff.
That should be hilarious, actually.
And then on Wednesday, March 1st, 2017, National Treasure comes to Hulu. So National Treasure is, there is a figure in British pop culture, a really, really famous guy named Jimmy Savile, okay? Uh-huh. And he was like a huge deal in the BBC, and there were all sorts of allegations. It's kind of similar to what's happening with like in the last couple of years with Bill Cosby, where like there were all these accusations about like rape and stuff, and it's like, how did we not know about this before? You know, like, and all of a sudden it's all like coming out in the public and everybody knows about it. But with Jimmy Savile, it wasn't like rape of adult women, it was child molestation. And there were many more cases than there were against Bill Clinton. And there seemed to have been direct cover-up going on from the BBC. So it was like this big deal. He was like a national treasure. And so this new series coming to Hulu, it isn't about him per se, because all the stuff about him came out after he died, after Jimmy Savile died. So this is a show that basically kind of took that inspiration of like a national treasure and then embroiling him in controversy and how that, like what happens with that. So this is a series called National Treasure coming to Hulu, already aired in the UK. It stars Robbie Coltrane, who played Hagrid on Harry Potter. He plays like the national treasure of the series that all the scandal erupts around. So yeah, that's coming on March 1st. That's it. So thank you everybody for listening. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will on Twitter. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. This was episode 96 of the podcast. We are going to be recording episode 100 unless something changes on March 23rd, and Ed will be joining us for that. So make sure to watch that one or listen to that one when it comes up. Thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all